I washed my face today. Little wash.
Hello, everyone out there, and welcome to Inclusivity and Beyond, a podcast that is sponsored by Metro Inclusive Health. So please go over to all of our social media platforms, Metro Inclusive Health on Facebook, like and share so you can receive notifications. Tonight, we are coming to you with our special Movement of Color, which is a cultural sexuality series that we've created to talk about norms and things that are going on in the Black and Brown communities. And tonight I have two special people that are going to be sharing this space with me on tonight. For everyone out there that I have not met or everyone I don't know, I'm Teriko, and I work at Metro Inclusive Health as a prevention and sexual health specialist. And I'm happy to have my two friends on tonight. I'm going to tag team them in. I'm going to start with Sean. I'll let him introduce himself, tell you all some things that may be fun or interesting about himself, and then we'll pass it to Miles.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Sean, also known as Mello. I am a male lead in the pageant community, and I am also a ballroom community activist. I'm turning 35 next Monday, and I'm happy to be here with you guys to share my experience.
Thank you, Sean, and happy early birthday, Sean.
Thank you.
And Miles?
Well, hello, everyone. I'm Miles. How do I just go with something interesting. So something interesting. I am a huge, I don't want to stigmatize nobody, but I'm a big nerd. I'm just gonna put it out there. So I love museums and documentaries. Fun to me is sitting at home watching documentaries all day long. So yeah, that's me. But other than that, I do a lot of work in the community. I feel like where there's inequality or any work to be done, throw me in there. That's me. So a little bit about it.
And that's one thing I will say for Miles and for Sean too. Anytime I've ever needed anything, whether it's in the community, whether it's personal life, y'all always jump in, are always willing to assist and help. So I thank both of you for that. So jumping into our conversation tonight. Tonight we're actually talking about the face of HIV and AIDS in the Black community. And I just wanted to bring both of you all on especially because there are different points of views that you all have from different standpoints and different platforms in the community, whether it was living with the virus or dating someone who was infected with the virus. And we're going to talk about PrEP and some other fun and interesting things. So my first question I want to open up with, I'll present this to the both of you. What do you think the biggest misconception about Black Americans living with HIV is? What do you think one of the biggest misconceptions is about Black people living with HIV?
Mello, I don't know if So, from my little standpoint, I feel that one of the misconceptions is that individuals who are HIV positive are, very promiscuous. They've done something to deserve it. That type of ideology. I think that's the one thing that definitely hurts us the most, that type of stuff. So.
And to piggyback off, I was going to say the same thing. I think it's just basically that, it's one of those things where oftentimes, like you said, they say, we're so promiscuous or we deserve it. And it's like, no one really, and a lot of times people are not educated with knowing what it is to date someone with HIV or someone, with a positive person and a negative person. So I think that the missing link there is the education piece.
Definitely.
So, Miles, you've been very open, and you're a advocate in the community when it comes to actually linking people to services, and actually we see so many different people, especially when it comes to the Black and Brown community, that come through the office. What do you think one of the biggest issues is with our community wanting to actually get treatment for the ones who've actually found out that they're positive or they're newly diagnosed? Sometimes we have people that come in that have known they're positive and they've fallen out of care. What do you think one of the biggest barriers is for them to actually be linked to care or to actually receive care?
To be 100% the biggest barrier I've ever seen, and that I constantly seen, and it's we got some work to do with stigma. I think that the stigma surrounding HIV and AIDS, it causes individuals to think less about themselves. They could have been triumphant and ready to take on the world the day before, and then all of a sudden 3 letters changed everything, and now they don't feel that they're the person that they were the day before. And I find that to be the weirdest thing, but definitely stigma. Stigma is the one thing that will cause people to not engage in care and I guess in layman's term, waste away.
Mm-hmm. And as far as stigma goes, what do you guys think is like one thing we can personally do? Because I definitely crazy story, just last week I went out to a community partner and Black establishment, all Black hosts and everything, amazing people. They were super nice. And so I was giving out safer sex kits, and I was giving out some hand sanitizer and some masks. And one of the hostess came up to me. She was like, well, why are y'all giving us condoms? Y'all supposed to be telling us not to have sex, because y'all the place that get tested for the virus and stuff like that. Man, I was explaining to her about prevention and what we're really doing while we're in the community outreaching. And she actually sat back and she said, but really when it comes to this virus, I don't think as a straight girl, I should be getting tested, because it's more so of like a gay man's disease. Aren't y'all more so prone? And mind you, I didn't even disclose my status, so I didn't know if she was trying to read and clock my teeth. She was trying to do like, aren't y'all more susceptible to getting the virus? And I kind of looked at her like, well, hold up, girl, wait a minute. You don't even know like what I do or what I get down with. But that was one thing. But she was like, yeah. So as a straight female, why should I even get tested? Because that's a gay man's disease. So what do y'all think is one thing we can do to help reduce some of the stigma?
I mean, it goes back to like what I was saying before, definitely the education piece. And definitely you have to be able to show, maybe give some more demographic statistics to show that it's not just affected in the gay community. We may have a high risk, but just be able to give them the knowledge that they need to see that it's just not in our community, that it's, it's a worldwide thing.
Mm-hmm. Most definitely. So I know both of you on a personal level. I will say that. And Sean, I'll kind of jump on your bandwagon for a second. Something that even me, before I started working at Metro, I never really heard about PrEP. You see the commercials, and even on Facebook now, you see the ads and you see the lawsuit stuff that's going on, and you're very keen to that. But sometimes you see like the little commercial where people, they're in the sailboats and they're riding the bikes and stuff, but you never really pay attention to it. And I didn't really know much about PrEP. And so working with the company now, we have a whole PrEP navigation team, and we talked about Discovery and what it does, and the prevention and aspect of PrEP. Sean, you've actually shared you're someone that is not positive, but you have dated someone who was positive, and you found yourself actually getting on PrEP. How was that whole experience? Like, starting from the disclosure process, was the disclosure a issue then? And then what led you from the point of him disclosing to you actually realizing, okay, I'm going to move forward and get PrEP or get on PrEP?
For me personally, the whole experience was definitely a learning experience, because me first coming into the community, I was luckily enough to work for LGBTQ Center. So I was able to get the knowledge that I needed to know. So for me, it wasn't so much of a big deal when my ex-partner disclosed the information to me. It was more so like, okay, you're positive, I'm negative, you're on medication, so let me get on PrEP so I can take a pill a day, just like you have to take a pill a day, just to kind of give him that normalcy feeling of that, you know, he's not, you know, that there's nothing really different other than our status, but you know, it's just to give him more so that to give him that comfort to know that it's okay, and that I wasn't getting on PrEP not so much because he was positive. I was getting on PrEP more for the comfort level, because I did practice, you know, regardless whether you're taking PrEP or not, you know, of course, safe sex, condoms is still a thing. So for me, after I told him, crazy enough, he was really upset. And he was
about you getting on PrEP.
About me getting on PrEP, yeah.
Oh wow.
And he was upset because everything that I did, I didn't tell him I was getting on PrEP. You know, it was like, I didn't, you know, I just didn't want to have that conversation where he felt uncomfortable, like, okay, I'm getting on PrEP because you're positive. So I just went, you know, to the clinic, got on PrEP, and, you know, whatever, I was, you know, I started on PrEP. And then he noticed, he was like, okay, well, what you taking a pill every day for? And I was just like, well, you know, I'm on PrEP. And he was upset. He was like, well, why didn't you tell me? You shouldn't be taking that stuff. And of course, you know, there's all these myths about PrEP, and it messes up your kidneys and all this stuff. So it was like, he was just more so upset because he felt like I was doing it because he was positive. But meanwhile, I was doing it because I wanted him to feel comfortable, to know that, you know, if you got to take a pill a day, I could take a pill a day too. You know, and I mean, plenty of people take pills every day for a lot of things. So it doesn't necessarily mean that we're taking pills because, you know, you're HIV positive and I'm negative, but it was just more so that, and I think after that was kind of like the turning point in our relationship, because it was like, he didn't feel comfortable. And I couldn't really understand why he couldn't feel comfortable. And there was a lot of things like he, you know, had, in his mindset set already. You know, after you find out you're positive, a lot of times you're conformed in these ways where you think that you're going to be stuck with this stigma and that nobody's going to love you and nobody's going to care about you and you can't get married and you can't have kids, all these things that, you know, come along with it. And then when you finally meet someone that is open to helping you with that experience, I think he was already kind of like shunned out, and he
didn't know how to receive it.
Yeah, he didn't know how to receive it. So it was like, at that point, it was kind of like, I felt myself fighting and fighting more to kind of help him. And
I think Sean just froze on up.
Did I? Can you hear me? No, you're frozen, Teriko. I think Teriko's frozen. So yeah, that was pretty much where I was at. Let's see if he tunes back in.
But I guess what has happened, I do want to say, side note, I find it very interesting, and you did pull up a good point in terms of some individuals who are, you know, HIV diagnosed, that they take on the stigma, pounds them down so much so that they already hard on themselves and they already just ended everything before they've even put one foot forward.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, I do find that very unfortunate and very sad, because I see that more than not. And I wish that, you know, Black and brown people were educated enough and empowered enough to know that it's not all of the stuff that you really think that it is. And so,
yeah, and it really isn't. I mean, and it took me fortunate enough, like one of my best friends, he's positive, he's an activist, he's, you know, he just does tons and tons of campaigns, he's on billboards everywhere. So fortunate enough being able to have a lot of circle of my friends that are open and comfortable with their status. That's what gave me the normalcy of it all. That was just like, okay, well, this is, you know, it's, you know, there's tons of other things that people are suffering and going through in life. And, you know, because we've advanced so far with HIV, with as far as prevention and things of that nature, I think that, you know, it's not as bad as the people may think it is when you're on a negative, status standpoint.
So Miles, thank you for that, Sean. And I don't know, I think my had some technical difficulties and it booted me out and I came back in. So I apologize to everybody for that. So Miles, I want to ask you, coming from someone who has who's been very open in their advocate in the community about their status when it comes to dating and actually disclosing your status to someone, have you had any issues? And if you have, has it been if you haven't, has it been a negative experience or a positive experience when it comes to you disclosing and opening up in a relationship?
So I would definitely say this. I've actually had more positive experiences than I've had bad. And to be honest, I feel like if I did have any type of weirdness, it was me. It was all on me. And so I think it was, for instance, I went to have a conversation with someone that I was dating at the time, and I was nervous. I was circling around. I wouldn't say it. I was like just sitting there looking at him like, I still got something to say. And so, and then and then I finally said it, and he just kind of looked at me, and he was just like, that's what all of this was about. He was like, oh, I thought you were gonna say that you wanted to break up or something, and he walked off, and I was just like, oh.
Well, when it's big deal I thought.
But the thing is that that situation in particular showed me that there are individuals out there who are open-minded, and it's listening to the stigma tape that play over and over at oh well, people think this way, and oh people are going to treat you this way, and blah blah blah. That had a lot to do with me and taking that on, but it really wasn't like that. To be honest, if I was rejected, it was like a strong once and then a half a time. So it was kind of like they were like, oh, I don't know. I don't know about it. And then it was like, oh yeah, let's do this thing. And it was like, oh, okay. So it was very interesting, but I've had more positive situations than not.
So Miles, a lot of times with our podcast, we've gotten a younger audience that have started to follow us, and we'll talk about stigma and different things like that. And there's so many people that are afraid just to get tested. A lot of times I found people that have once they get the strength and the courage to actually come in and get tested, they've actually said that they kind of knew, or they felt something's going on because they have been sleeping or having unprotected sex, or their partner, they find out that this partner did it, but they just had trouble coming to grips to actually with the whole process of coming in and get tested. So could you share a little bit about how your process was when you were getting ready to go get tested and you actually found out your status, in hopes of somebody that's out there that's listening, we can try to reach them, and to those people that are afraid, or people who have like lack of knowledge on what actually happened, because a lot of people still think it's a death sentence. So take us in like some of those steps or those beginning stages when you were going to get tested, or what prompted you to go get tested, and what did you do as far as getting on treatment in the beginning stages?
Lord, you want this story? Okay. So pretty much, I to be very fair with you, and it's very unfortunate, I was one of those individuals that didn't get tested until the stigma had me in a sense to where like, well, I don't do that type of stuff, so that doesn't it doesn't count for me. I don't do this, I don't do that, that's not me. And so and then I looked at how old I was at the time. I was in my early 20s, and I was just literally really kind of getting the whole feel of the gay world. I wasn't being tossed around like a boomerang, but at the same token, I was just getting out there. So either way it goes, I finally had got into a relationship. And so even then when we got together, we didn't have a conversation about, that type of stuff or whatever, what have you. And then so what ended up happening was he got tested. He got tested and he found out about himself. And so he, came home very just not himself. And so I'm, out of all the things that I thought that he was going to say to me, that wasn't what I thought he was going to say. And so he finally let the words come out. And I feel like I could even wrap my mind around the fact that now I am, by quote, one of those people now. You know what I'm saying? Like I was like, because I was so busy trying to kind of like pull him together, because I was like, oh God, feel like a spaghetti mess over here. Like what's like I'm like trying to have to clean him up a little bit. So, but so the very next day, in the very next day, I went to the agency that he worked for at the time and got tested, and boom, found out that I was positive myself. And so I don't know, from that point, actually, to be very honest with you, I filled out all the paperwork that was put in front of me. I did what I was pretty much instructed or told to do, if that makes sense. And that's all that I did. So in terms of whatever got that particular entity, whatever they needed, you know what I'm saying? And that's a little bit of agency talk, but whatever they needed was what happened. And then so that was it. And so, I mean, I kind of knew my doctor's appointments and stuff like that, but it wasn't until I had actually disclosed to a good friend of mine that actually worked at the agency I worked at, which it was Metro, that things kind of changed from that point. And so I went from just being someone who was nervous about this new thing to being someone who was a little more informed, a little more involved, and taking the time to really understand what's really going on. So
thank you, Miles. So Sean, since Miles kind of shared a little bit of his relationship situation that was going on at the time when he found out that he was positive, I want to go back to you for a second. Thank you guys for this positive, informative session. Much of shout out to our sister Albion. Hey Albion, Jocelyn. Hey cousin, how you doing? I wanted to ask you, Sean. Once your partner disclosed his status to you, was there a little bit or a little voice in the back of your head that was telling you, okay, I have to stay with this person? Because I know you're like a super caring person, just like you even told us your prep process, how you kind of went and you were just trying to be, like super strong for your man and be this supportive partner to show him, okay, he's going to take a pill. I could take a pill with you. Was there something inside of you that almost made you feel obligated to stay with him just because he had disclosed his status?
Not obligated, because we're not obligated to do anything but go to bed and wake up. But I will say that I wanted to be that support system. I didn't want him to feel like because of his status that this was it, that it was done, that we couldn't do this, and that's why I tried to give him that comfort, so this way he won't feel like, okay, you're about to leave me. I'm more than likely he was going to leave me before I left him when it came to the status thing, because for me, it's really like, it's really not a thing, truthfully. I mean, and that's just me. And I don't know if it has to do with the way I was brought up. I was brought up that, once you love someone, you love someone. Doesn't matter what they're going through. You're either going to be there for them or you're going to dismiss yourself from that. In the back of my head, I was just more, the only voice that was in the back of my head was whether or not he was going to be able to accept the fact that I was willing to stay with him being positive. Because like Miles was saying earlier, is that once you kind of most of the time the stigma is once you find out your status, that first beginning stages until you kind of like get comfortable, you're kind of like, you think your world is over. You think that you're not, you're different, and I just felt like that's kind of where his mindset was, and I think that was ultimately the reason why we wasn't able to last. Was because I was so open-minded to the situation, and he was still closed-minded in those stages. I don't know where he's at in his point state of mind now, but at that particular time, and this was probably, I want to say, maybe about 5 years ago, about 5 years ago. So, you know, for me, it was just more so like, okay, well, if we both can't, you know, be open-minded to the situation, then it's not going to work, because I'm not going to continue to battle a brick wall, you know, at that point.
So, what does sex look like? Let's talk about sex for a minute. So, what does sex look like in a discordant relationship where someone's negative, someone's positive? What does sex look like? Because I have so many people that'll come in, and once they find out their status, they're like, I can't have sex no more. I can't beat me none in no more. I can't do what I used to do, man. This messed up, man. I can't do this. I can't do that. So to everybody out there, I want both of you to tell me, what does sex look like in a zero discordant relationship?
Well, the
Miles is smiling. Miles ready.
the partner that I was sharing about, I'm not going to talk about that experience because there was a whole lot of other issues within that. But I have dated other positive people, and I've had sex with other positive people, and sex be the bomb. There's no, it's there's really no, you know, I'm not that type of person that, you know, when I'm, you know, because of that, you know, that once we in the bed and we making love, it's a wrap. It's no holds bar. It's we doing what we doing. As long as we're doing what we need to do to keep all the preventative, you know, to do all the preventative care that we need to do to make sure that we're both safe, then we're good. But I mean, there's no like, you know, oh my God, am I gonna, no. For me personally, I don't know about anybody else, but for me, there's no like, oh my God, am I gonna, do I gotta go get tested after this session? No, I'm good. You know, I've had most of my good sex sessions have been with positive people.
Okay, we have a comment from my promoter from Black America, Sean. Was there any fear on his part that he would be infected? They're asking Sean, was there ever any fear on your part during that relationship, to where you were thinking you would get infected at any time?
I don't necessarily think, I don't know. I really don't know how to answer that, only because if there was a fear of me getting infected, then there wouldn't have been an issue with me being on PrEP. So if I was on PrEP, you know, I don't know if, you know, I don't know, you know, his battle was more so just thinking that I was on PrEP because of, you know, because he was positive, you know, like, oh my God, you're positive, so I gotta, you know, take care of myself type of thing. And that's really not where my mindset was. So I don't really think and the reason why I really didn't talk about, like, as far as our experience when it comes to sex, because, you know, that was just a dub. So
it was a wrap.
It was a wrap before the status was disclosed. So
he was out of there. So Miles,
yeah.
Miles, I want to tag you in now, Miles. So Miles, being someone that's positive, what does sex look like?
Y'all seen Freak Twitter? It looked like sex. That's I mean, to be real 100 about it is, you know, the thing is that I do everything. This is the thing I think a lot of people need to understand, you know, with the whole thing of, you know, where you not to throw the stones at nobody, don't beat me up. But, you know, the thing of, you know, the fear of, you know, infecting someone and stuff like that. I think that the more you know about HIV, the more that you understand about it, the less you kind of think about things in that term. Like, for instance, if someone is HIV undetectable, there's less likely for you to, you know, be able to infect someone else. We never want to say that there's a 0% chance, but it definitely decreases the chance of infecting someone else. And understanding stuff like that and knowing stuff like that, and definitely takes it down a couple pegs. And so, but the one thing that I definitely encourage in those type of situations is communication between two individuals. Like, I feel like when it comes down to sharing your body with someone in that capacity, like they should know what's going on with you. You should understand what's going on with them. You want to come to the doctor? Come on, come to the doctor. Go ahead, let him ask you questions. Let's ask each other. Let's have this conversation. But yes, all of that. But sex is sex.
Sex is sex. So sex is sex. So something I do want to piggyback on. Miles does work in linkage for Metro, and he's super awesome. LaWanda Jackson. Hey, LaWanda, how are you? Love you too. So Miles works with linkage at Metro. So he just touched on something. He said undetectable. So there's a program out. The CDC issued their U equals U program. I think that was last year. Miles, would you mind telling us a little bit about U equals U for the people out there who might not understand what undetectable is or what goes on with that?
So I'm gonna have to say this without sounding too technical. Okay, so um, basically, U equals U. It goes back to what I was saying earlier about being undetectable. And so when a person that's HIV positive is undetectable, that means that they have less copies of the virus in their system to transmit to anyone. So I was going to go deep into the explanation, but I ain't trying to lose nobody. Just understand it. So you're less likely to infect someone. So understand this much. So viral loads can be all the way up into the millions, and stuff of that sort. When you're on medication and you take your medication appropriately, your viral load goes down, your T cell count goes up, which are your fighter cells. So it pretty much a HIV positive person on medication and doing what they're supposed to do and what have you, they straight. That's as simple as I can make it. So,
and the CDC does say one of the safest forms of sex. Of course, we always promote safe sex. We're always telling people to use condoms as well. I had a couple who came in Metro. We have a program that's called Connect, and it's like a couples counseling / intervention where we talk to couples that are like newly diagnosed or having barriers to getting tested. And so we were looking up some information from the CDC, and what the CDC does state that, say for instance, Sean was on PrEP, Miles positive, and he's adherent to his medication. That's one of the safest forms of sex, for someone to be on PrEP and they're adherent to their medication, and then for someone who is positive that's adherent to their medication. It's so much stigma that surrounds sex. People there are always like, okay, I can't have sex anymore. I don't know what this is going to do to my sex life. I don't know what's going on. That's why I think a lot of us perish a lot of times because of lack of knowledge, especially when it comes to our Black and brown communities. We don't have the knowledge. So therefore we're thinking, okay, well, this is going to change my life. But there's so many advancements when it comes to medications and things like that. We don't know that these services are actually here, and medicine has like skyrocketed. So, Sean, you're on PrEP. Miles, you're adherent to your medication. Was there ever any problem with your adherence as far as taking your medication, establishing that regimen? Was there ever any issues or barriers? And if so, how did you actually overcome those?
There was never really an issue until like I really started making the big bucks, and my insurance wanted to charge me a lot of money for PrEP. So it was kind of like, well, you're undetectable. I'm not paying all this money. Let me try to figure out some resources. Of course, I found out other resources where I can get PrEP. But it's a little bit harder, when you are depending on your insurance coverage. It really depends, and I think that was really the only obstacle that I had. But like I said before, I mean, as far as being consistent with taking it every day, it's really nothing. It's a pill. We take vitamins daily for those that take vitamins, so it was really never an issue until the insurance people wanted to charge me that
Jack,
money.
your purse.
It was like, not this one.
What about you, Miles?
To be 100%, like I didn't have any adherent issues in terms of like, making sure that I or not, missing doses and not just taking it because I felt weird or anything like that. But that just reminded me, okay, so let me level. In the beginning, so let me just put things in perspective. I was 22. And so 22, still trying to live my best life, all that other stuff. And so
Hot boy summer.
little something. And so the thing was that, you told that you take your medication at nighttime. And so yeah, and at the time I was on a triple. If you know it, look it up. Just look it up. So anyway, so triple. And then so the one thing that I was told that, you take it at nighttime because you probably gonna get a little drowsy, fall out. That's that. You sleep good. Well, I decided that I was gonna go out to the club. Let's just say that was a very enlightening experience. I I didn't know whether I wanted to be crunk or just lay down somewhere in the corner. But that was definitely a little bit of adjustment. Was taking this medication, still trying to basically live my best life and kind of juggle being out and hanging out and stuff like that or whatever, what have you. And eventually, things kind of subsided and it was nothing. And so I've long since not been on that particular medication. And so, and like you were saying, in terms of medication advancements and stuff like that, of course, I benefited from that. And I'm thankful that I'm in the day and time that, medications are available and they are better for our systems. And they're not, as toxic as maybe some other earlier versions may have been. So I've not run into any issues like that, and no side effects, no crazy situations, nothing like that. So.
Thank you both for that. In our community, something I've seen that we don't really talk about is chemsex. And when I first heard the term chemsex from one of my colleagues, one of my white counterparts, I was like, well, girl, what's chemsex? And when we actually started sitting and talking about it, I'm like, oh, you mean party and play? And for those people that are out there that are listening, chemsex is when you're actually having sex and you're using extracurricular drugs, whether it's weed, whether it's X, whether it's alcohol, cocaine, whatever it may be, but it's actually bringing a drug or a substance into your actual sexual acts. We call it party and play, chemsex, and things like that. Do y'all think with the younger generation now, and we see so many people in our like youth and young adult community that are actually being infected with the virus, do you think chemsex plays a part in the Black community and with people actually testing positive?
I'm going to say yes. I don't throw darts at people. I let people live their best life, but there's not been a situation that I've crossed because I come and professionally I come from a space of working with people from coming off the street, being diagnosed, and going through starting the journey from that point. And you hear a lot of stories. You have a lot of conversations. You are struggling with them through, not only just coming to grips with their diagnosis, but also, I guess you could say for some people their habit. And so, but I find in many cases of where situations where that's a part of it, they aren't making the best of decisions at the time. And it's really in. If you want me to be 100%, to even know that there are situations to where, individuals have a habit, what I'm saying, and sex is the way to continue to get what it is that you want. And people don't care. They don't care. If this means that I'm going to give you this and I'm going to get what I want out of you, meaning I get to have sex with you, and you ain't going to care what I do to you or how I do it to you as long as you get this. And consistently, I will see individuals who fall out of those type of situations, with a positive diagnosis.
And that's something I found on working in the fields. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that, Miles. Something I found working in our field, 9 times out of 10, when you're getting the backstory, a lot of times in our Black community, it's often tied to some sort of substance or something going on. Now, there are other times where different situations have emerged, and there, different things that are happen with the process with that person becoming positive. But a lot of times, I hear, "Well, I was messed up, man. I don't really remember what's going on. We was all doing such and such and such," or you know what I'm saying. They have this big. It seems like crystal meth, Tina. That's been something that's been growing, like growing. Everybody like it's like the new thing now. So they're like, "Man, we was on Tina, and I remember I couldn't really go to sleep, and we just kept going and going and going." And then at that point, of course, you're not in a clear state of thinking. So of course, when you're trying to have sex, your inhibitions are going to be lowered, and you're going to do things that are going to put you at risk. And that's something us as Black people we don't talk about. A lot of times in our families and in our homes, I've found even growing up when it came to different things happen. What goes on inside our house, we're gonna keep it inside our house. We're gonna deal with it here. But a lot of times when you face like a positive status, a lot of times when a family hasn't had to deal with that, they don't know how to properly have you linked to service or properly have you put in care. Which shout out to Metro Inclusive Health for anybody that's in our area, St. Petersburg, Tampa area. We have multiple offices for anyone who wants to come out and get tested. We offer over 100 services, behavioral health, and everything else. I'll give you a little more information at the end. But that's something I found that we don't talk about as a Black community is something like chemsex. Whereas my white counterparts, it's just an open conversation. They discuss it, they talk about it, and that's something we kind of shun under the rug and kind of push away. So thank you for that, Miles. So my next question is, a lot of times when you talk to people and they have conversations and they don't know about someone living a full life and being positive or dating someone, they use this term clean. Oh, I need to date somebody that's clean. Oh, baby, she ain't clean. I only want to date clean people. How do y'all feel about people using that term in our community? I just want to date somebody that's clean. She ain't clean. What you mean? Because I take baths. So what do you mean? I'm not clean.
Yeah, I think it's really, really offensive to say something like that. Because like you said, I mean, what's clean? Clean is someone that takes a shower. So, you know what I'm saying? So I really don't know. There's, and I always say oftentimes, there's such a stigma with HIV that people don't realize that there's so many other things that can be wrong with someone that is a lot more, that can really take that person through something totally different, through a hard time, a hardship. So, saying, if someone, when I hear the term, I always address it, and I kind of like, especially when you are dating or into the dating field, and be like, well, it's a lot of, I don't think it's an awkward conversation because I don't know, I'm weird, I guess. I don't mind having the conversation, but a lot of times they'll be like, oh, so are you clean? And I'm like, yeah, I took a shower.
Right.
Are you clean? And then, and they're like, no, well, what's your status? And I'm like, well, there's the status, there's only two ways to, speak of a status, and it's positive or negative. There's no other way to address the status, whether it be clean or, all those other terms that they use when they're, being offensive to people that are positive. It's just like, it's uncalled for. I think it's, just like using the N-word, saying clean towards someone that's positive is offensive.
Thank you. How do you feel, Miles? Someone saying, are you clean?
So this is the part of the conversation where I have to definitely govern myself accordingly. So here we go. All right. So I to be fair, like, and I'm not saying it to like be ill with it, but ignorance at its best, and I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. And the thing is that everybody has something in their little pocketbook that somebody else can kind of like toot their nose up at about. And so I just really wish that we just spent more time on just, well, definitely educating ourselves, but being more civil, being more responsible about what comes out our mouth, and understanding the power of what we say. So and it's unfortunate that in our community there are so many different ways of saying that. That's just one of them. I've heard growing up, be like, oh, they got that ninja. We ain't talking about chlamydia. We ain't talking about gonorrhea. We
The
know
tick
what
tick
people talking about.
boom.
You know what I'm saying? And so it's just like really, and that seems to be your concern right now. Somebody else's status that ain't got nothing to do with you seems to be your concern.
Mm-hmm.
We got bigger fish to fry. And so I don't know, I hate it. That type of talk is disgusting, and I usually can't hold myself together when someone speaks like that around me. It's tough.
Like, huh? What?
Like what?
They be talking about cleaning somebody else, and I done opened up my mouth and said something.
Oh, you got
You don't know me.
So Sean, you've actually worked with a agency that's done similar work that we do at Metro. Miles work in linkage. I'm in prevention as well. So, do you believe that blacks who are actually affected with AIDS or HIV and AIDS are receiving the same attention as whites? Why or why not?
It's really hard to say this without offending nobody.
Be
But
real.
oftentimes our community, they are not willing to accept, hey Kyla,
Hey, Kyla.
they're not willing to accept the education piece, the information piece. They're so scared of the stigmas, or they're so scared of what people's going to think. So I think that a lot of times that when it comes to treatment and prevention and stuff like that, we're so scared to go out and get it because we're worried about what the person next to us is thinking about us. Versus, listen, my health is a lot more important than your opinion. Therefore, I'm finna go get the treatment and the help that I need to get. I think that when it comes to other communities other than Black and Brown, I don't know. They just have this thing about them that they they don't mind. They just like you said earlier. Your coworker or they talk about party and play openly, like it's like we talking about what we're wearing today. So they're not. So they're all for. A lot of times they are all for the okay. Hey, we're gonna go get this. So I think that's the struggle. I don't think that sometimes yes, there is a lack of resources for our communities, for the Black and Brown communities. But will I say that it's treated any differently? I wouldn't really go so far much in saying that. I just think that it all starts with us.
Okay. What about you, Miles? I have two things that I'm thinking about, but I want to hear what you want to say first, and I'm saying what I have to say.
I'm trying to really put it where I want to start. So hold up. I want to land right. What do you want me to say?
So I'll jump in first then. I feel like just being honest and being open, I work for one of the best agencies and organizations ever. But just being a Black male and working for my particular agency, I've even found myself attacked because there are so many resources that we offer and so many other resources that our community, especially for Black individuals, there's so many resources we are or we can be privy to. And a lot of times people, they look at the face of something. How can I word this? Because we have to be politically correct. They look at the face of something. I found myself attacked just for working for Metro at times from other people in the community that don't have a full spectrum or haven't opened up their paradigm of thinking to what we do. They're looking at, okay, well, y'all aren't really servicing Black people. Metro's good. Y'all have so many services, but what are y'all really doing for the Black community? I see y'all servicing so many whites. But where I work in the Tampa office, 90% of the clients that I see are Black and brown, and they're there receiving services. I believe that with things growing and with so many different programs coming into fruition, that the services are there for our community. A lot of times, like I said before, we perish because of lack of knowledge. And sometimes you have these negative Nancy's that are out there. And this little baby here really needs these services, but you scared this baby from coming to get these services, or coming to just coming to speak to someone in linkage who can break it down, that looks like Miles, who looks like me, and can explain to me these services are here for you. This is what I can offer you. It's not a scare tactic. It's not a death sentence. These services are here. So I think, as a man of color, I think that the services are there for us, and we are treated, equally. But a lot of times people use these scare tactics with us. Even with me working at my particular agency, I've had someone attack me saying what I don't do. Well, you don't work on the job with me. You don't
Yeah.
you don't clock in when I clock in and see what services I'm linking my clients to, or like who I'm actually servicing in our office specifically. So that's where I'm gonna get off my soapbox. That's how I feel, Miles. I'm gonna let you come in for a second. I think you know who I'm talking about.
Really quickly. And in my position, working with a lot of individuals,
Hey,
I
Alan.
see the struggles of a lot of folks across the board. And so when it comes down to what I see in Black and brown people who, come in to access care and stuff like that, the be very 100 with you, the stigma and the lack of education is the part that I have to fight against the most. You know, like Metro has been around for almost 30 years. Somebody hit me close, but nearly about 30 years or so. And so about 30 years roughly. Almost. We hit there. Almost. I have to clarify. So anyways, and to be fair, like I'm originally from St. Petersburg. Being 100 with you. I was raised in, South St. Pete. Yeah, I did not know anything about Metro. I didn't know anything about Metro until I moved over to Tampa. And, so that kind of says a lot about what we know about, the resources that are right there in our own backyard, and, accessibility. And so there's just so much. There's so many things. And so stigma is definitely one of those things that is a barrier. And because I heard the comment that, the resources aren't there. And to be honest with you, like the CDC have a lot of programs that target Black and brown individuals, the DOH. There are a lot of things out there. It's just that we're not responsive. We're not responding to it. It's tough to have that conversation about HIV. It's tough to talk. Let's rewind. Let's fast forward. Excuse me. It's tough to talk about sex without even having the discussion about HIV. So it's tough to talk about protecting yourself and having sex. And even when you talk about protecting yourself, you talk about things like for instance, I have a nephew who was talking about the using a condom not for the sake of protecting himself against any STIs or HIV, anything of that sort, but just so that he wouldn't get a girl pregnant. So that kind of says a lot about the mindset or what's going on in our communities in terms of what we are actually thinking about and where we see ourselves in terms of risk of HIV infection.
That's good. It's the whole scope of what's going on. Like, our scope gets somewhat distorted, but I do want to let the community know that Metro, we have services for everyone. We are inclusive to everyone. So as we're rearing down toward our last couple of minutes, nationally, we're working on ending the epidemic. So I want to pose this question to you both as gay Black men. What do you feel is something we can do to actually help end this epidemic? Whoever wants to jump in.
I'll go ahead and I'll just jump in real quick. Sorry. So, being in this field for quite a number of years, I have 10 years of being directly in the field, and I have 3 years of being a friend to the field. And so education is definitely one of those things. And I know that there are a lot of individuals that cover their ears and try to overtalk you in terms of what they believe that they know and understand, or but they cousin from around the corner, this what happened to them. So this seems to be like their base of knowledge. And it's like, no, actually really take the time to educate yourself, know something that's been proven, know something that has some fact behind it. Because it's a matter of, and I don't want to say it this way, it's a matter of, I'm gonna say it this way, living with the virus or living without the virus. You know what I'm saying? So it's ultimately your choice, but definitely education is one of those things that we need. And I feel that sometimes we could be timid about having those conversations, going up against certain figures or gatekeepers of communities that feel that that conversation doesn't need to be for their people. No, this conversation is for everybody. I don't care what you think. I don't care how you feel. Your people need to know this. You need to know this, because Black and brown people, the the numbers speak for themselves. You know the story that you were speaking of, Teriko, about the young woman who was a heterosexual. She identified, I guess, as heterosexual.
Mm-hmm.
If she only knew that heterosexual African American women or Black women are right up there, right next to gay men. If not, if and I'm being correct, if they aren't higher. But you know the thing is that she didn't know that. And so those are things that I feel that we really need to, you know, take into consideration and understand. Education. So that's what definitely I feel like if we definitely had the education, I feel like we would govern ourselves a little bit differently around the topic of HIV/AIDS.
And just to piggyback off of Miles, of course, like I've been saying the whole podcast, education. But I also want to add on to that, resources like this. I think that a lot of times, I feel like in order for our community to grasp the education piece, they need to see someone that they can relate to. I'm not going to say, I'm not trying to be that person, but me listening to someone that is Black or brown, me listening to someone that is in my age group, me listening to someone that relates to me is what I'm going to listen to. I'm not going to listen to someone that's not me, because in my eyes, they're not me. I have to, so I've been wanting to sit, and I'm thankful for Teriko, because I've always wanted to sit on a podcast where I'm able to share my experience as someone being negative that dated someone in the past that was positive, and whoever my future husband to be may be positive or negative, whatever. It could be whatever it is, but just to be able to share that experience, so this way those individuals that are watching that are negative, that have that stigma of, oh my God, I can't date someone positive because I'm going to be positive, that they can understand that it's there's really no difference between the two individuals other than their status and the types of medication that you got to take. But the person has to take a pill just like I have to take a pill. So ending the stigma of, helping the epidemic of HIV in our community, I strongly feel like it would have to be resources like that Metro offers for the community, this particular, movement of color program that you guys have, so we can continue to give those resources to our community so they can relate to us. Even going forward, it's a slightly off topic, but even like going, with this whole election, voting, I'm going to listen, the people that see us voting or registering to vote, they're going to register to vote and vote too. So it's all about being able to relate to the person within our community. So this way they can get that education piece, and then it can help minimize the spread.
Thank you both so much. I agree with both of you all. Me personally, as a gay Black man, just being able to hit that pavement, making sure I'm out there. I'm putting the education out there. I'm actually letting our community know there are services there. You know, having people that are tangible, people that look like me, or people that like look like us, that we feel comfortable connecting with, and they're telling us, or sitting down with someone like Miles who can tell me, hey, this ain't no death sentence. Where you at right now? Just be real with me. Like, let's talk about what's really going on, what you heard. You know, somebody that can break it down to me on layman's terms. I definitely think that can definitely help our people in what's going on now as far as the HIV and AIDS epidemic. So if you guys can give me two quick closing statements. So to Sean, to someone that's out there that's listening, especially in our community, in the Black community, just being honest, that is afraid to get on PrEP. They know they're not positive, and they see these PrEP commercials and they're nervous about insurance and all this different stuff. I don't know if I want to take that little pill. What's one thing you could say to encourage someone to actually go out and get on PrEP quickly?
Just, I mean, it's I'm gonna say it like I said it before, it's just a pill. It's really nothing. It's like taking a vitamin. It's definitely gonna help. You know, it's an extra preventive that you can take that can avoid being infected. And this way you don't have to worry about whether someone's positive or negative. You can just have fun, enjoy life, and have all the sex that you want.
Sex is good. So to Miles, my closing question to you is, Miles, to someone that's out there listening, this little Black guy or this little Black girl that's out there listening, and they feel that they may have been exposed, or they've had at-risk behavior, but they're afraid to even get tested or to find out their status. What advice would you give them?
Oh, that's a good one. Um, you know, first of all, there's so much power in knowing. Um, and in either way that, you know, the pendulum swings, like, you're gonna be okay. There, you are still the same person with the same goals, aspirations, drive that you were before you even may have been put in that position, or even, you know, have known, you know, whatever. Um, and to hold your head high and continue to do you, and don't allow anybody to put you into a box. You live, you know, we go through some things, you know, we learn and we move forward. So
Thank you so much. Thank you, Sean, and thank you, Miles, from the bottom of my heart. It has been an awesome time tonight, just having the dialogue and conversation with you both. To everyone out there, if you have enjoyed this podcast, we actually are here once a month, but we have numerous podcasts that actually go on at Metro. And to keep those actually going, you'll see a little bar should be screaming across the bottom of your screen there. It says to keep the virtual programming going. It lets you know how to donate. Text Metro to 44321. Also, for anyone that's in the area, if you are looking for testing, for PrEP, behavioral health, we have over 100 services: prenatal care, top or youth, young adults. We actually have LGBTQ programs. So for those out there that don't know, Metro is not just somewhere where you can come in and get tested. We have primary care. So come on down, talk to us, hit us up. Our website is metrotampabay.org. So if you have any questions, feel free to check out the website. Also, next week on Thursday at 6 p.m., we will be having a PrEP review show. It's going to be a good show full of PrEP facts. We're actually going to have some drag performers, some male leads, and it's going to be right here at Metro Inclusive Health. So follow our YouTube channel and our Facebook page as well. So thank you all for tuning in, and until next time, having you here makes a difference. Thank you.